go to his ministers and wait for their deliberation, and then if he likes it, he'll follow it. And if he doesn't like it, something else. That's the second kind. And the third kind was they don't ask anybody his advice. They just do whatever they want. Ravana was the second kind. He would ask his advisors what should be done, and if they didn't agree with him, he wouldn't do it. He's almost like the third kind, who doesn't mean to ask anybody, but out of formality and thinking maybe they'll come up with some other idea that'll help me fulfill my already conclusion, then I can accept that kind of consultation. So leadership really means to understand that you can't really see the whole situation. You need to have some advice. So one who takes advice from others and tries to understand how that advice applies. Nowadays you don't find that. Leader means, nowadays there's no leaders. The ones who are actually leading the world, they are told to do with people you don't even know. There's the ones that are controlling the leaders. So the leaders are just puppets anyway. They have no intelligence. And if they don't go along, they're out. That's today's world. But Ravana was like that. He always did what he wanted, but he would check in around to see if maybe I could learn something by asking advice. But Ram took advice. And he took advice from, his seniors. He took advice from others. And he also asked for advice. Ram was capable alone to take care of Ravana, but he engaged a whole series of 10 million monkeys. That's how many monkeys were there. 10 million. They were known as Varnars. They were actually half demigod and half monkey. When Brahma tells the demigods that the Lord is coming in order to rectify and re-establish religious principles, he needs your help. And of course the Lord doesn't need his help, but that's the way he does things. He employs his devotees. And so they said, you create progeny, and those progeny will be the assistants, and they should be half monkey and half deva. So Bali became the son of Indra, or the offshoot of Indra, and Sugriva became Surya, the sun god. Hanuman was the son of the wind god. So all of the major devas had created these powerful. Susena was the offshoot of Varuna, the god of the oceans. And all of these, and then it was 10 million of them. And so Ram used them to help him in his mission. It's interesting. Give you an example. And this is a principle of leadership. A leadership wants to engage others in the activity of devotional service for the benefits of those persons. They see why I can do it alone, or maybe I can do it with one or two other people, but why not engage more people? And that way they will also benefit. And that will make the activity more pleasing to the Lord when more devotees are involved. So this is one of the principles of leadership, how to bring other persons in. And the example was when Srila Prabhupada's talking, and he says, devotees asked him, Srila Prabhupada, You know, Lord Chaitanya, he was here. He was in India, and he traveled all over India. He spread Krishna consciousness all over the subcontinent. Why didn't he take it around the world? He's God, could have did it. Prabhupada said, he left it for me. He left it for me. That's the Lord. And this is an interesting principle. The Lord can do anything and everything. He's all-powerful. If we don't accept the all-powerful nature of the Lord, then we'll have some doubts about how things are happening. He's all-powerful. But he uses his powerfulness to empower his devotees to do the work. And we have many examples. Ram empowered all of those monkeys to assist him in crossing the ocean and to build the bridge and to fight against the Rakshasas. He took counsel from Sugriva to help him find his wife, who was no longer, he could not understand where Sita was. Again, we find how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is inclined to his and this is a very, very wonderful quality. Try to understand this. This is so important. That whatever we can do, or not, whatever we can do, is really the empowerment of the Lord. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Rasohom apsakuntiya prabhasmi sari surya pranava sarvavedishu sabdike purusham nishu. Sabdike Purusham Nishu said, I am the ability in all living entities. And Krishna also says, Sarvashyajaham Riddhisani Visto Matat Smriti Jnanamapo. I give knowledge. I give forgetfulness. I give remembrance. Krishna does everything through his devotees. If he wants you to forget something, you can't remember. If he wants you to remember something, you can't forget it. He fulfills our desires, but sometimes he goes beyond that, empowers his devotees to do wonderful things, and he gives the credit to the devotees. Ram gave all credit to Hanuman. Hanuman did some very powerful things, but Hanuman is an energy of Ram. Ram gave all credit to Sugriva for organizing the monkeys. So everything was done through Ram, through his devotees, and that way the devotee gets the credit. The Lord, I mean, there's so many examples. Should I tell you one story about that? It's a nice experience. Would you like to hear it? Everybody still with me? I know. I'm just making sure because I have to do that because, you know, sometimes you lose. Are they still with me? If you're not, just raise your hand and throw things, and then I'll get back on track. You know. Krishna was in Dwarka. And so Krishna, he's there, and this is after the battle of Kurukshetra. Yudhisthira wants to perform a Rajasuya sacrifice to consummate his, you know, taking of the throne and ruling of the world. And this is in line with principles. Now, to do that sacrifice, it takes unlimited amount of wealth, and it takes years to do the whole thing. At least it takes years to prepare for it. So Krishna's there in Dwarka, and Yudhisthira is all there, and there's a big meeting, and they're in the assembly house, and Krishna's there. During the time Krishna was there, a messenger walks in, comes to the door, and the person at the door greets the messenger and asks him why he's come. He said, well, I have a message from Krishna, from the kings that have been imprisoned by Bombasura, and it's in the form of a letter. Can I read that letter written by the kings to Krishna? And so the messenger, the guard at the door, announces what this messenger wants. Krishna says, bring him forward. So he's there. And so he reads the letter. My dear Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they're glorifying Krishna in so many ways. We are in a horrible position. We have been captured and imprisoned by this powerful king, Jarasandha, and he's harassing us. And we don't know what is our destiny. We are suffering so much. We're also feeling your separation. So, and then it goes on, and at the end of the letter says, please save us. Please save us. So Krishna's listening, and everybody's waiting for Krishna to say something. Krishna turns to Uddhava. Uddhava, what should we do? Because there's a conflict. The Rajasuya sacrifice, Yudhisthira wants Krishna to come and be the representative as the most important person, and he's asking Krishna to get involved. And now this other service comes up. So there's a conflict. So Uddhava is very dear to Krishna. He's actually Krishna's cousin. He's the son of one of Vasudev's brothers. And so they're quite close, but at the same time, Uddhava is such a devotee of the Lord that he has so much love for the Lord. So they're together. So Krishna says, Uddhava, what should we do? Now Krishna knows what to do, obviously. And he says to Uddhava, what should we do? Uddhava said, well, my dear Lord, we cannot really perform the Rajasuya sacrifice as long as Jarasandha is still alive. So the first duty is to kill Jarasandha. Then the Rajasuya sacrifice will be done in the proper way when all opposing elements are vanquished. Beautiful answer. Everyone starts to cheer. Well, wonderful. Krishna smiles. Yudhisthira likes it. And Uddhava is seen as, he's so intelligent. So Uddhava gets all the credit. So this is how Krishna does things. He likes to give credit to his devotees. Although he's the empowerment, he's the intelligent, and he also gives the facility. And sometimes when we see things don't fall into place, then we wonder, maybe Krishna doesn't want it. Or maybe I'm not working according to Krishna's or my spiritual master's direction. Something is not right. But ultimately, it's Krishna that gives success. Or a parent. You can't fail in devotional service. The only way you can fail in devotional service is you give up. Don't ever give up. Even if it appears things are going wrong and things... Devotional service is not about results. It's about the sincere effort to try to please the Lord. And that's the principle of life, because the principle of life, if you want to be successful in any relationship that you have to please the person you're in relationship with. Otherwise, it's not going to work. In the material world, everyone wants to please themselves, and therefore the relationships get frayed, and they either fall apart or people go in a separate direction and keep the relationship in a formal way, but there's no real relationship. So yeah, so don't ever give up. Sita never gave up. It seemed like she was in a situation where, she wasn't hearing from Ram. 10 months under the care, or not care, under the cruel lockdown of this demon, but she never gave up because her love was strong. Okay, so these are some things. Should I continue? Okay, some questions. Yeah, okay, so we have time. Anyone? Questions, comments, corrections? Way in the back there? Yes, Mataji? Do we have some way of making some volume? Some microphone? Okay.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for oh, sure. Is this working?
It's working, but it's quite low. Do we have our microphone manager up there? Okay.
Yes? Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
That's good.
Thank you very much for the wonderful,
Thank you.
long story. Well, I have one question. Maharaj, you were saying that we worship Lord Ramchandra as in awe and reverence. And but yet, all Ramayana is full with emotion.
Yeah. All in reverence with emotion.
Does it mean that does it mean when we worship the Lord in awe and reverence that we control our emotions, that we're not showing them? As in Krishna's pastimes, there is no much of controlling that emotion, but it's actually showing.
Well, you direct that emotion into the expression of awe and reverence. That's all. You don't have to kill the emotion. It's just the way the emotion is, the way the expression is offered. It's in that mood of awe and reverence. I mean, you're standing before the deities. The deities are offered, but you feel loving relationship with the deity. So, but how do you express that? You're not going to go up there and kiss the deity, you know. You might want to do that, but you might feel like you should do it. Or if you're in a different mood, you might want to just like, you know, jump on the back of the Lord and just play like the cowherd boys do. But you can't do that. It's just not. So the mood of the expression is there, but doesn't mean you should shut down those emotions. That's all. No. And when you actually reach the stage of spontaneous love for Krishna, then Krishna will also, you will be able to experience that loving relationship in that mood like that. So, but all in reverence is a stage. It actually becomes spontaneous attraction as we develop in our purity in Krishna consciousness. And that is actually required to come to that stage of loving emotion. That's the mood of Vrindavan, but that mood can also be expressed towards Ramchandra also, like that. Mm-hmm. Does that help? Yeah, thank you. That was a nice question. Yes, Vrindavan Nath, yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Maharaj for a very nice, amazing class. As you mentioned that Lord Ram always wanted to follow his superiors, and Mother Sita or Lakshman, Bharat, Hanuman, they all wanted to give happiness to Lord Ram. They just wanted to serve. So on this most auspicious day of Ram Navami, I have just this question that how we can do little service so can give some happiness to Lord and spiritual master from this tiny jiva.
What can you do to honor the Lord on this day? You can chant his name, you can hear about his pastimes, you can speak his pastimes. All of these are service. It's all glorification is actually, it's also service. You're serving by glorifying. You're serving by hearing. And if you have an opportunity now, just like many of our devotees here will be cooking, that's service also. And there'll be devotees who will be assisting in the cooking, that's also service. And there's devotees who will be doing Harinam Sankirtan, that's also service. So choose. can choose how you want to serve. But I would say just don't do anything else today. That's all. Yeah, and just give your whole time, at least one day a year, to Ram anyway. That's what it. And the mercy on this day is greater than it would be on any other day in relationship to Ram. Yeah. Because on his appearance day, there's extra mercy available. Not only in the form of service, but in the form of the happiness that you will be experiencing when you serve on this day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Let's see. Yes. Okay. Over here. Mataji. Mm-hmm.
Hi Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisance.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Thank you for the instructive class. My question is, we can see from Ram Leela like Bharat Maharaj always being misunderstood, even though his goal was ultimately to make Lord Ram happy. So similarly in our lives also we come across the situations where we are misunderstood.
It happens all the time.
Yes. So how can we deal with this?
It's just the way the material world works. There's, people they're together as husband and wife, and they somehow, even though they know each other, sometimes there's a misunderstanding. It's just the way it is. To avoid that, everything should be. If you can see that in this situation there will be some misunderstanding, communication helps to alleviate the possibility of misunderstanding. And honest and open communication. That's one way to prevent, but you'll see even in the best circumstance there's misunderstanding. But try not to make it to a point where it'll cause the relationship to turn in a different direction, to go in the wrong direction. So think ahead of time. Does that person really understand me? And so we can speak about it also. Be a little bit more open. And kind of look for some of the possibilities which will cause misunderstanding. Try to see that and avoid that. And there's an example where Prabhupada was in one temple, and he was standing in that with some brahmachari was there, and a guest came in. And the guest, Prabhupada immediately turned to the brahmachari and said, "Bring him some Mahaprasadam." The devotee left, went back to the pujari room, and at that time the pujari had just put the offering on the altar. And so he said to the brahmachari, "Well, the offering just went on, so you're going to have to wait, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So he came back to Prabhupada, and he told him, and Prabhupada said, "No, bring it now." He didn't want the guest to wait. So the devotee went back, and at this time the pujari was chanting his Gayatri. And so the devotee walked right past the pujari, walked on the altar, got the plate, and started walking off. And Prabhupada told him, and then the pujari, that was the end of the Gayatri, so I think he might have got his finger twisted a little bit. And he's following the brahmachari who's carrying the prasadam, and they both arrive at Prabhupada at the same time. Now, who's wrong? Is there anybody in that situation that's wrong? No, nobody's wrong. Misunderstanding. That's a real extreme example of misunderstanding, but it does happen. There's other understanding that where some communication could have been there. The brahmachari could have said, "Well, actually Prabhupada doesn't want to wait, he wants it now." But he didn't think like that. So maybe he didn't think to say that. So yeah, communication, I think, helps to mitigate the possibility of misunderstanding. But it's just the way it is. We expect sometimes when we do things or say things that people will understand us. That's funny. So try not to do things that will cause people to misunderstand. Does that help a little? Yeah. It's just more about communication like that. And sometimes when you want people to understand something, you preface what you're going to say to help them understand easier. You know, you introduce what you want to say before you say it. Yes. Okay, that's it. Thank you. All right, so we have to stop here. So this is the beginning of the day. Have a wonderful day and chant, dance, and take prasadam later. and try to spend as much time as you can in hearing the glories, chanting the glories of Sri Ram. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Lord Ram. Lord Ram will come in the form of a shalagram very soon with a kirtan party, and the pujaris request everyone who wants to bathe should keep in mind that the person should be in devotional clothes, second initiated, and altar clean if you go for the abhishek. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Please someone start kirtan here.